There is one thing, not 7 habits, not a morning routine, not a list of behaviors you need to practice every day for the rest of your life. One thing. And the moment you do it, truly, completely, without going back, something shifts in the way every person around you relates to you. Not because you said anything, not because you demanded anything, not because you changed how you presented yourself to the world, because you changed something so fundamental, so deep, so completely interior, that the world simply had no choice but to respond differently. Stay until the very end, because the one thing is not what most people expect, and the moment you understand it, really understand it, you will see why everything else you have ever tried to change how people treat you was working from the outside in, and why this works from the inside out, where all real change actually begins.
In 161 AD, Marcus Aurelius became emperor of Rome. He did not campaign for the position. He did not perform for it. He did not strategically manage the impression he made on the people deciding his fate. He simply became more completely himself. Every day, in private, without audience, without announcement, without any calculation about how it would appear to the people watching. And the people watching, the senators, the generals, the philosophers, the most powerful figures in the known world, could not look away. Not because he was performing power, because he was not. Because the quality he carried, the quality that drew every eye in every room he entered, was the rarest thing those rooms had ever encountered. A person who genuinely did not need anything from the room, who was not there to be validated or approved of or seen in a particular way, who was simply there, complete. And in his completeness, in that extraordinary, almost disorienting quality of genuine self-sufficiency, he changed how every person in those rooms behaved toward him. Not because he demanded it, because when you encounter someone who truly needs nothing from you, who is not performing, not seeking, not managing, something happens in your psychology that you cannot fully control. You recalibrate. You become more careful, more deliberate, more conscious of what you bring to the space they are sharing with you. You begin, almost involuntarily, to treat them differently. This is the one thing, and we are going to spend the next 30 minutes going into exactly what it is and exactly how to build it.
The one thing is this: stop performing for anyone. Not the people you want to impress, not the people you are afraid of, not the people whose opinion you have been managing for so long that you have forgotten there was ever a version of you that existed before their gaze. Stop performing, completely, permanently, without going back. Now, before you dismiss this as simple advice that you have heard before, I want to be precise about what performing actually is. Because most people think they are not performing. They think they are simply being themselves. They are wrong. Performing is not just putting on a false face. Performing is any behavior whose primary purpose is to produce a specific impression in the mind of a specific person. Any time you say something not because it is true, but because of how it will land, that is performing. Any time you modify your energy in a room based on who is watching, that is performing. Any time you present a version of your opinion, your decision, your reaction that has been adjusted for the anticipated response of whoever you are with, that is performing. And most people are performing almost constantly. Not because they are dishonest, because they have spent their entire lives learning that how they are perceived determines how they are treated. And they are right, it does. But here is the dark truth about that equation that most people never fully examine. The performance does not improve how you are treated. It determines the quality of the treatment you can access. When you perform, when you carefully manage the impression you create, the treatment you receive is not treatment of you. It is treatment of the performance. And you, the actual person underneath the performance, remain unseen, untreated, waiting. Epictetus addressed this with the directness that made his philosophy one of the most durable in human history. He taught that there are two lives available to every person. The life lived for the gallery, organized around what others will see, think, and say, and the life lived from the interior, organized around what you actually value, who you actually are, what you actually know to be true. The first life is comfortable, it is familiar, it is continuously confirmed by the approval it generates. But it is borrowed. It belongs in some essential way to whoever is watching. The second life is uncomfortable at first. It requires you to act without the continuous feedback of external confirmation, to make decisions without checking their face first, to speak without softening the truth to make it more acceptable, to exist without adjusting your existence for the room. But it is yours, and the treatment it generates once people begin to feel it is qualitatively different from anything the performance could ever produce. Because when you stop performing, something happens to you that is immediately visible to everyone around you. Even before you say a word, even before you do anything different. The quality of your presence changes. You stop looking for something from the room, and a person who is not looking for anything from the room is the most psychologically disorienting thing most rooms have ever encountered. Here is the specific mechanism at work in human psychology when you stop performing. Every social interaction operates on an invisible economy. Most people enter a room looking for something: approval, validation, the confirmation that they are seen correctly, that they are valued, that their presence has been registered and deemed acceptable. This looking, This continuous, often unconscious seeking produces a specific quality of neediness that other people can feel. Not always consciously, not always in a way they could describe, but felt. In the slight over-eagerness of the greeting, in the way the eyes check to see if the joke landed, in the invisible tension of someone who is measuring the temperature of the room and adjusting their behavior in response to what they find. And people, all people, even the ones who are not consciously predatory, calibrate their behavior toward you based on this signal. When you need something from the room knows, and it behaves accordingly. The people who have what you need have leverage over you. The people who can give or withhold the confirmation you are seeking have, in a very real sense, power over your internal state. And power over someone's internal state is what determines the fundamental quality of how they are treated. Now consider what happens when you stop, when the seeking disappears, when you enter a room not looking for anything, genuinely, not as a performance of not needing, but actually, completely, from the inside, not looking for anything. The signal that everyone else is broadcasting simply is not there, and its absence is felt as immediately and precisely as its presence would have been. The room recalibrates. The people in it who were accustomed to having a certain leverage over you through the withdrawal of their approval find the leverage gone. The people who expected you to seek their confirmation before feeling settled find you already settled, without them. And in the absence of your need, in the space where your seeking used to live, they feel something that produces an involuntary shift in how they treat you. They feel the loss of the power they did not know they had. And people treat very differently the person from whom they cannot take anything. Marcus Aurelius built this quality through a practice he maintained every single morning for the entirety of his adult life. Before the day began, before the demands arrived, before any human being had the opportunity to calibrate his internal state based on what they offered or withheld, he sat in silence, and he returned to himself, to his values, to what he actually believed, to who he actually was, independent of who the day's events might confirm or challenge him to be. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Not the strength of someone who has convinced others to treat them well. The strength of someone whose internal state does not depend on how others behave. And the quality that produces, the visible, felt, completely non-performative quality of a person whose inner life is independent of external response, is the one quality that changes everything about how others treat you. Not because you asked for better, because you stopped accepting the transaction that determined the old treatment. The transaction that said, "I will adjust myself for your approval, and in exchange you will give me the confirmation that I need." When you stop accepting that transaction, when you remove yourself from the exchange entirely, you have done the one thing, and the people around you have no choice but to recalibrate. The practical question is how to actually build this, because understanding it is not the same as having it. And having it is not a switch you flip. It is a foundation you construct, one choice at a time, one moment of honesty at a time, one instance of acting from your actual values rather than from the management of someone else's impression at a time. Begin with the smallest version. The next time you are in a conversation and you feel the impulse to say something, not because it is true, but because of how it will land, pause and ask yourself which version of this comes from me, and which version comes from what I think they want to hear. Say the one that comes from you, not aggressively, not as a statement, simply as the truth. The next time you enter a room and feel the impulse to check the temperature, to scan the faces, to adjust your energy to match what you find, pause
and return to your own interior, to what you were before you arrived, to who you are, independent of this room, and walk in from there. The next time you make a decision and feel the impulse to explain it until it is acceptable to the listener, give them the decision and stop. Let the silence that follows be their work to fill, not yours. Each of these moments is small. Each one will feel slightly uncomfortable. Each one requires you to tolerate the brief and passing discomfort of not managing their response. But each one closes the gap between who you are performing to be and who you actually are. And as that gap closes, as the performance is gradually, permanently, one honest choice at a time replaced by the real thing, the people around you will begin to feel what Marcus Aurelius communicated in every room he entered, that this person does not need anything from you. And the treatment that follows from that single, quiet, completely interior shift is the treatment that no performance in the history of human interaction has ever been able to produce. Subscribe to Dark Stoic. Every single week we go exactly this deep into the psychology of what actually changes the way the world relates to you. This is only the beginning. Subscribe and do the one thing.